Hi everybody, thank you so much for clicking and for watching this video. Today I'm going to be talking about a film called Waiting for Guffman. This is of course tied to the 90s, episode 4. We'll just call the previous one a special, okay? We'll just call that a special. Now this is episode 4, so episode 4 of Tied to the 90s. Today we're talking about a Christopher Guest film, Waiting for Guffman. You might know Christopher Guest as the man behind Spinal Tap. He's been in numerous other things. Of course, he's done other amazing films like Best in Show and For Your Consideration and those kind of films. And if you are not familiar with Christopher Guest, you know, his films are mockumentaries. You know, that kind of idea that they're little documentaries, you know, that focusing on a little story of a little event. Like Best in Show, it's basically sort of like Crufts. You know, they're following different people around the country as they go on this journey towards being their dogs performing at this sort of event that's like Crufts, but in America. And Waiting for Guffman follows that trend. You know, it follows suit. It follows a group of performers, amateur performers, in the small fictional town of Blaine, Missouri, in America, and they have been chosen after auditioning successfully. They've been chosen to perform for the 150th anniversary of Blaine, Missouri. So they're going to perform in a musical and a show, and it's going to be directed and choreographed by Corky St. Clair, who was performed by Christopher Guest, who is just incredible. You need to see this performance. And yeah, it's for me, these type of comedies always work. Occasionally they don't work because but the reasons that they don't work, I think, usually are because people are they want you to know that it's a joke, that it's a bit like they're doing this, you know, this bit's funny, but because there is an authenticity to the world that he creates, you could almost turn this on in the middle of it, and you don't have to know that it's a comedy. It's just the fact that they play it so seriously, you know, and there is such an authenticity that it becomes more absurd. Like, the more serious that they take it, the more serious that they play these characters, the funnier it gets. And there isn't this kind of desperation for every line to be funny. It's just an escalation of the situation. And I think because it's an everyday situation, you know, basically it's an amateur dramatics. It's a group of amateur dramatic performers that are coming together to perform. And as someone my sister and my dad were part of an Amdram group when I was younger, and so I know I'm sort of familiar with that world. I have a little bit of knowledge of that world and how crazy it can be. And I don't think the film goes to those lengths, but I think the fact that I do have a knowledge of that world and the politics that comes with it. And there is politics as well in this. I don't mean politics like Republican, Democratic, you know, those kind of things, but politics within the group. And I think that works really well. That's something I definitely recognised when I was watching it. But again, I keep going back to that word. It's the authenticity of this. And I'll just talk briefly about why that's so important to me, because when I used to perform comedy, you know, a particular character, I always felt like it had to be as real as possible, and I really like the idea of the audience not knowing if this person was real or not. And I loved when people were confused and when they would gradually come around to understanding what was happening. And I imagine that's what would happen with a lot of people if they switched on halfway through. They wouldn't be sure, and then they'd get what was going on. And I love that idea of sort of blurring the lines. And I think this is a good opportunity for me to talk about comedy as well, because people like Kaufman, and Christopher Guest have probably Kaufman. Only after did I probably realise how much of an influence he probably had on me, and just in again that thing of like blurring the lines between what's real and what's not, and it's a really hard form of comedy to do, to take your audience on a journey when they're not quite sure if this is real or not, if someone's authentic or if you're being played, because no one wants to feel like they've been made a fool of, and I'm trying not to waffle. That's what I always wanted to do with sort of character comedy. I like the idea of playing people that had a bit of vulnerability and sort of weren't quite sure why they were there or what they were going to do next. And so that authenticity is something that I'm always seeking out when I watch character comedy, and I link that character comedy to this because the characters are authentic. I went the long way around. There is this authenticity to them that I really like, and it resonates with me as well. And I think it's so funny, and I'm never comfortable when somebody keeps telling me, this is funny, this is so funny, it's the funniest. How often do people say to you, that's the funniest film ever, and you're disappointed? So I'm trying to not say that it's the funniest film ever, but it's a very, very funny movie. And just the observations that Christopher Guest has made on this world, and now apparently, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I did read this, that he got the inspiration for this movie when he was watching one of his children in a play, playing a play, Annie Get Your Gun. Now he was saying that he was seeing all these people with these fake mustaches, these little people with children, running around with little mustaches, and he thought it was so funny and so interesting that he immediately got that idea. And thank God that he went there, and thank God that he saw that, because I completely understand. As I say, there's so much that you can do with that idea. There's so much politics, there's so much happening between the characters. So Waiting for Guffman, as I say, it's a funny movie, but it's a study really on people. It's a study on people and what they're like when the spotlight is on them, when the pressure is on, and it really they do a really good job of making you believe that this is real, that this is what it's like. That a small little show can mean everything to someone, and that was so great to see. That it would have been easy to make this like a Broadway show, that they're there and they're doing a performance on Broadway, but the fact that it's just a small little town, that again resonates with me more. I was watching a comedy recently, and it's not a mockumentary, but it was on the BBC, and right away from the get-go, they were already a top league club. They were already really at the top level. They've already had some kind of success. So I don't really see what you have to aim for if your characters have already achieved something. Even if you, in a football sense, just talking about in sports, like even if you get relegated, you're still successful, really. You're making a lot of money, and the chances are you'll be all right. How many times do we see a manager get sacked and get another job? But when you set a comedy in a small little area, when you set it in a small fictional town or a small place like Norwich with Alan Partridge, and no, it's not a mockumentary, but because again, I remember seeing a programme and they were talking about the creation of Alan Partridge and talking about where's he from. Well, everybody knows Manchester and Liverpool, no one knows Norwich. that's brilliant. You've got so much more to do, and that's another great thing that they do in this film. The use of language, the naming of little places that you're not familiar with them, but you want to go. Again, that's the same with Partridge being from Norwich, and all these things really matter, and they make for a really great fun comedy. It's enduring. It has an authenticity. It's a believability. I just think the performances, Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hare, Parker Posey, Christopher Guest, everyone just does. Fred Willard, who no longer with us, but he's just incredible. He's also, he's in, as we mentioned, other Christopher Guest films. He's so good, Fred Willard. I think it was only recently when he passed that I realised just how good he was. How good his timing was, how funny he was, and he's brilliant in Best in Show. He's so good in Best in Show. He's, of course, in Everybody Loves Raymond. He's been in so many other things. You could do a video of Fred Willard, just a video of Fred Willard, because he was that brilliant. So it's a shame that he's no longer with us, but, because I'm sure Christopher Guest will go on to do other films, and when he does, Fred Willard won't be there, and that'll be really sad, because he's such an important part of this world that Christopher Guest creates. So, yeah, the reason that this film works for me is the authenticity, the believability, the fact that it's just they play it so straight, and so because they play it so serious and so straight, it's so absurd, but it's on it. They always play it at a certain level. So again, they're not going, this bit's the joke, here comes the funny bit. It's so good, and so I definitely recommend Waiting for Guffman. And I probably have waffled a little bit here, but again, I don't think that's always a bad thing, because there's so many positive things to say about this film. It's not, the runtime isn't very long. Anyone can enjoy it. If you're interested in comedy, and if you're interested, particularly mockumentaries, then this is a good place to start. I'd say I actually prefer it more than Spinal Tap. Really, I probably prefer it more than Spinal Tap. Just going back to that thing that I was saying, because it's at a smaller level. Whereas a rock band obviously had some kind of success. I still really like Spinal Tap, but for the most part, I like things where the characters haven't really had any success. There's kind of a desperation. They're sort of starting at the bottom, and they have something to aim for. And of course, in this, they learn a critic is coming to watch their show, and so they become more desperate. They become more determined. They have something more to aim for, because they think, well, if we do a good job here, we can go and perform on Broadway. So again, and I've not given any spoilers away. All I'm going to say is you can rent this on Amazon Prime. You can get it on iTunes, and you can buy it from most of your high street retailers. Waiting for Guffman, released in 1996, directed by Christopher Guest, written by Eugene Levy and Christopher Guest. Eugene Levy, again, you could do a video about him on his own. First saw him in American Pie, not even, of course, all those years ago, not knowing just who this person is, or the body of work that this man has had. This man is incredible, and when you put him alongside like Fred Willard and Christopher Guest and Catherine O'Hare, who'd have known? Who knew that? Seen her again all those years in Home Alone. Who knew that she was funny in that, but the timing is so good in this. Parker Posey, why don't we see more of her? But they all work as an ensemble cast, and it's just thinking about it now, it is a special movie. And the last time I used the word authenticity. That's so important. But yeah, Waiting for Guffman, definitely worth checking out. This was Tied to the 90s, episode 4. You can follow me on Twitter at Adam Blaze Lives. That's BLAIZE. Some people do it the traditional way, If you do that, you won't find me. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, to leave any thoughts, comments and feedback, because all of those thoughts, comments and feedback help me with future content. Very small channel at the minute, but I'm always looking for subscribers. I love hearing what people have to say. But until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all soon.